Good morning, guys. I'm here with Tai Tran, Forbes study under 30, worked at Apple and Samsung. I get to meet him at the Your EDU Connect conference yesterday. I get to listen to him. He's the keynote speaker. This guy has a lot to offer and tons of energy and a good heart. And I think that's what attracted me to learn more about him. So I'm here dropping him off at the airport and didn't hesitate to ask him, let's do a video, okay? So, Ty, tell me your journey to Forbes Study Under 30. Uh, it's a lot of people wants to do things like that, and it's not about the process, but it's about setting those intentions. How was your journey started, and how did you get there?
Yeah, so I think my journey, I would say, if I had to say there was a beginning to the story, I think it was a lot of based on my background as an immigrant and also growing up in a low income family. So my family and I, we immigrated from Vietnam to the United States where we resided in California up until where I attended UC Berkeley. And I think throughout that journey of growing up, not knowing much about the tech world or kind of like the business etiquette as per se, I think I learned a lot along the way when I was attending UC Berkeley that if you have a dream, you need to start taking action toward that dreams, and it's not about waiting for someone to help you. You have to go out there to help yourself and making sure that every day you're taking action toward the dreams that you have. And so to answer your question, based on I've known about the Forbes list when I first entered Berkeley back in 2011. I knew that the list was a prestigious list that focuses on a lot of young entrepreneurs, young professionals, and people who are disruptors, game changers in their industry. And I was enamored by the list. I knew that one day I want to be on the list. At that point, I was 18. I knew that I have about 12 years left. Actually, 11. They only accept up to 29. So I knew that I had,
So you
yes,
set 29 as your goal,
yes,
and you wanted to be on the Forbes Study Under 30 list.
yes.
And that was too early, like young, to have
Uh-huh.
that kind of ambition, right?
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's a Zen Z thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But it really helped you to define what you want to do and where you want to be, right?
Yes.
So how long did it actually take to get there?
Yes, and I think you mentioned like you were super young about this. So how did you came about to knowing how do I want to know that I want to get on that list, right? I think there's probably, I think it was more of this ambition, right? I think it's like I maybe in a sense, sometimes maybe it's I would say blissful ignorance of how hard I knew it was gonna be. I knew that I wanted to be on the list, but I think for sake of I would say validation perhaps that my work is being appreciated by someone. But at the same time, I knew that the journey to get there wasn't going to be an easy one. I knew that there were other very young, I would say passionate marketers and young tech people out there that also are looking to get on that list. And I think my advice for folks who might be interested in getting on some of these lists is that don't let it manifest. Like I would say, don't let it manifest and kind of kill you inside if you don't get on the list. Because there are people who have tried to get on this list for years and they end up hitting when they're 30 and they still have not made the list. And I think if you kind of go into this journey wanting to get on this list and desperately want to get on, I think it's very difficult to do that. And I think it's about what were your purpose, intention, why do you want to get on that list, right? I think for me that I knew that that list was a stretch goal and that it's something where it's a more of a internal validator and also external validator. External validator is that you get on the magazine, but internally you also see that all the work that you do, it's paying off in a sense. That I would say that for me is like the kind of the American dream, that success. That you can come from nowhere and actually get to somewhere based on hard work.
So basically, it's not about getting on the list. It was the process.
Yes.
And it's about how you want to live your life
Yes.
leading up to who you want to be. So the journey is more important than
Yes.
where you ended up.
Yes.
And you were doing some of these things already, writing on LinkedIn
Yes.
and contributing to other blogs.
Uh-huh.
And you didn't even know that you were pitching towards this, but you were contributing these things.
Yes.
So it's kind of like taking your passion and just matching with, there's actually a list for these people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it all comes from within and with that passion and drive, and then you set the goal. Is that
Yes,
accurate?
I would say that's accurate because the reason why I originally even got the opportunity to be considered for the list was I reached out to Forbes with the intention to contribute and write for them, adding value to the editorial before I even asked for a favor or an advice. I came in telling them that I've written on LinkedIn for a while with this perspective on marketing and millennials, and at that time I knew that that was a space that was still unfilled by the Forbes editorial team. And that's how they got interested in my story. And through that conversation, led to another, where that conversation where they found me to be a great contributor to the Forbes network, and they also asked me like, hey, do you also happen to be under 30? And I think that was when all the piece of the puzzle kind of like fit in very well. Was that when I originally reached out to Forbes, it was never going to be the ask about getting onto the list. I knew that my goal was to aim to be in my late 20s, where I've gotten more career experiences. But based on just having that conversation with the team over at Forbes, I realized that they were focusing on your age range as well. So if they're looking at someone who's in their early 20s, they're only going to compare you to other people in their early 20s up to that point. They're not going to pair a 21-year-old with a 29-year-old because that's
Yeah.
an 8-year difference. And
8 years of
yes,
experience.
difference.
Yeah.
Yes.
I call it law of attraction.
Uh-huh.
It's all these magnetic puzzles just getting attached to you based on the time and space you're in and how you're manifesting your own reality.
Yes.
Tell me your journey. Now you're on to your podcast and then you're working on other startup. The podcast is something you can sit down and listen, and there's a lot of information about, you can cover entrepreneurship or money talks, whatever it is. What was the focus for your Zero to Infinity podcast?
Yes, I think as the title of the show implied, the Zero to Infinity podcast focuses on a lot about the idea of my background as an immigrant, as someone, a person of color, and also coming from a low income background. I've always felt that I started with nothing. And through my journey, just through higher education, I think that for me was social mobility at its best, where I attended UC Berkeley. It gave me a lot of opportunities. It has opened so many doors of opportunities, but sometimes these doors weren't always there. I had to make, if there's no door, you're gonna have to like go and find those doors to open them, right? And I think that's where I think if you didn't grow up with privileges, you didn't grow up with parents who know how to tell you, hey, go network, go do all these other things, right? You probably wouldn't know those things. And I think I learned those along my way with, some of them by myself as I enter my jobs, but also through mentors as well who took a chance with me, gave me that opportunity to work with them and also kind of shepherd my growth throughout my, I would say, early 20s. I think that led to many disruptive opportunities along the way.
Yeah. It's about making that right connections, and these people came to you naturally because of who you are, right? Like it was.
Perfect,
So
thank you.
much. So it's all about being authentic
Yes.
and have that integrity and let those other people see, oh, he has something.
Yes.
And I can mentor him,
Yep.
right? Because that happened with me too, with a lot of mentors that I had, and I still find mentors. There's
Yes.
always something new
Yeah.
to learn. This journey led you to a new startup now, and one thing before I forget, yesterday you mentioned about gratitude and
Yes.
forgiveness,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I see that you deeply practice, and I see that was mentioned in your previous TEDx talk.
Yes.
Like perseverance and determination. Can you share a little bit more on that, the gratitude and forgiveness, and how it
Yes.
helped you to move forward?
Yes, I think when it comes to gratitude, I think we don't practice enough of that in our daily lives. I think we are stuck in this rat race and this motion of we need to get to that finish line. We're all trying to race to the end and also sometimes race to the top of the corporate ladder as well. And I think we rarely take a step back, take a breather, and kind of appreciate things around us. Even the simplest things, we tend to focus more on big wins rather than small wins. It has to be something where I got that big promotion rather than that, hey, I finished a project and I exceeded expectation in the way I've set out myself before I start that project. And I think for me, gratitude comes through many layers. Gratitude in your personal life, in some of the things that you take for granted, like being able to have lunch, being able to have a roof over yourself. I think those are some of the basic human needs sometimes that we take for granted, that even if you have a bad day, you can still go back to your home and relax and actually sleep and have a very, a peaceful night and not starve, right? I think that are some of the things that I think we always take for granted.
Yeah, it's so important to realize that how fortunate we are. If you have a house and if
Yes.
you have food to eat, you're considered like better than 95% of the world population, right?
It is.
And being thankful for what you have, like however small it is, and recognizing that actually allowed me to see bigger things to happen in my life,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
And you're great, like very grateful for what's happening. And where it start radiating for me is once I start offering that to other people or teaching them this is how you can do it.
Yes.
That even manifests a lot more things faster,
Yes.
right? So the journey starts at one place, and it's like playing piano. It's like you never look for the end note. Like
Yes.
you enjoy playing the piano. But along that journey, being grateful for what you have and forgiving all the things, and I call it like mental blockages that our beliefs that we set at
Yes.
some point in life,
Uh-huh.
and clearing those things allows you to see who you are really.
Yes.
And that can be applied at the personal level or the business level or in your career, right?
Yep.
And I encourage a lot of people to start
Yep.
doing these things, right? And what's next for you when you start up?
Yeah, so I think what's next for me, I've worked at big companies like Apple and Samsung. I've also worked at other startups as well. And I think now my next journey is now going to entrepreneurship and actually building something for myself now. I've always wanted to dabble with the startup scene, but I think I never had that luxury to do that when I was still in my early 20s. Primarily, I didn't have the income to support myself or the saving. I didn't want to be a burden to my parents either. So I wanted to make sure that I had a stable job, stable income, have something to say that I'm actually building saving to create that runway for myself, right? And I think that has given me more financial freedom now to actually focus on what's next. And I think what's next for me is be able to have an idea from the beginning, and then getting that idea, creating a product and getting it to go to market, and seeing the entire life cycle of a product, and being able to inspire that vision from the get-go, and not in a sense have ownership and autonomy over what I do. And I think that's gonna be something that I'm gonna live by. And I think for me is, as I'm building more product, I think the philosophy that I am going for, our company is called Maslow Lab, so that's very inspired by the Maslow hierarchy of need, right? And so, yeah, for people who aren't familiar with it, it's a psychology theory that focuses on the 5 basic human needs, right? And how do you meet all these needs? I think as I saw the Maslow hierarchy of needs, I mean, there are definitely many theories that focus on what human needs, but these are some things that I think is just so valuable when you create product, but also think about living in general, is that you're always trying to be a better person every day of your life, but in order to get better and kind of get to the top, which we call self-actualization, to be the best person you can be, in this theory, there are basic needs that you need to fulfill throughout, there's 4 layers before self-actualization. Things like physiological needs, right? You need to live, you need to air, food, you need, and things are just basic human needs, like even sex. And those are things that I think are just so integral to our life before we can get other things like security, self-esteem, and then love. And I think those for me are just such basic human needs. And how do we integrate technology like machine learning, AI, and data science into kind of the way that we live, and augmenting and enriching our lives, and not feeling that technology might replace human, but I think it can actually enhance
What you have.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I totally see that. And this is something else. Like, I'm a lot older than you. When you experience certain things for yourself, you learn something different than when somebody tells you.
Yep.
Right? It's like, I can say I'm pregnant, I delivered a baby, and I understand the pain, but the pain is totally different. I would probably never understand the pain And I think every situation in life is
Yes.
very similar to that,
Yep.
either good or bad, but you learn. And unless you process those things,
Yep.
we're not like growing our consciousness to be where we want to be.
Yep.
I really like the aspect of how you put it, like Maslow Labs, and I saw that like you used design thinking yesterday. It was very similar, right? So, what do you tell young people, and then we can end this.
Yes.
And then you can have your breakfast. I'm sorry,
No worries.
he's starving, and I'm
no,
just doing
no
this.
worries, no worries. I think my biggest advice for young people, especially if you're still in college, even in high school, I think is don't feel that you need to know what you want to do just now. I don't think back when I was in Berkeley, I still didn't know that I wanted to do marketing. It took me a while to get comfortable with not knowing what I wanted to do. I would say set up goals for yourself, learn things that can give you tangible skill set, right? Don't come into this blindly either. Set some goals for yourself. You don't have to say that I want to be a marketer for the next 20 years, but if marketing is something you want to try out, give it enough time to simmer so you actually know what you like and what you don't like about it, right? As you explore things, come in with an open mindset and also come in with the idea that even if it's the worst experience, you would have learned something from that worst experience so that you know what part of that job that you like and what part that you don't like. And I think has been my guiding principle with everything I do is that when it comes to this, is not really design thinking, but it's through this process where for me, I call this retrospective, and it's really about after you do something for a while, you should look at three factors: what went well, what didn't go so well, and then what can be improved, right? And I think through that framework, you're gonna start seeing that even though you might not like a particular job, you still like elements of that job that can actually be applied to your next role. So when it comes, say you try marketing, but you didn't like marketing so much, there's still factors such as, with marketing, I got to be creative and I got to work with people. So now what other jobs can offer those elements that you enjoy? And I think it's always this idea that not all jobs are going to be perfect. I think you're gonna have to, if you want to do something, you gotta know that it needs to be 80-20, right? 80% of that job needs to actually make you happy, make you wake up every day wanting to do it. Don't go into a job assuming it's like 50-50 and you're gonna try to be happy with 50%.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. And I think it creates resentment for the role. And I think you shouldn't, you shouldn't put yourself in that position or your company or the people hiring you in that position. I think it should be a good fit on both sides of the party, but also you need to actually do these assessments for yourself because nobody knows what you want better than you. And I think that's, for me, my biggest advice is that be comfortable with being uncomfortable, I guess. It's that you don't have to know where your life is heading. It's always good to have goals and things written out so that way you at least hold yourself accountable, but know that if you have so much tunnel vision toward a goal, you most likely might not get there, or even potentially you might not be seeing all the other opportunities that you're missing out because you're only laser focused on one thing. And so that would be my my parting advice.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Tai, for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and inspiring younger generations. I'll share this with you, and you can get on your flight.
Thank you. Thanks all. Yeah.